Thank you. Hello, everyone. Sound is okay? Okay, yes. What a pleasure it is for me to be presenting today the performance concepts of the Fortepiano at CAPMT. Before I begin, I want to introduce you my wonderful TA, Hannah Park, for several years. Now she graduated DMA degree at Claremont Graduate University. And also another important person here, Curtis Borek. He is the harpsichord builder, and he restored this fortepiano for this conference. And he supplied early keyboard instrument for orchestra, Southern California. Thank you, Curtis. Currently, I teach piano and fortepiano at Claremont Graduate University. Although I began life as a pianist, practicing on the traditional modern piano, while at CGU, I became very involved in the unique beauty of the fortepiano. This led me to believe that to give the piano teacher a perspective in how classic period compositions were heard during the period of time that they were composed, that playing or hearing the performance of them on a fortepiano would be a major benefit to teaching these classic period pieces on the modern piano. Therefore, if a pianist is studying the works of C.P.E. Bach, Mozart, or early Beethoven, and plays them on a fortepiano, the teacher and student will hear a very different performance sound. The classic period is roughly from the sons of J.S. Bach, the early 1700s, to the early 1800s. But there is a period of time from the early awakening of the classic period when the fortepiano was king. Composers during the fortepiano era dealt with a softer sound, lighter action, and a different emphasis on the overtones which are generated, can lead a performer on the modern piano to possibly modify their approach when perfecting a keyboard piece from the era of the fortepiano. I would like to explore this pedagogical direction by demonstrating on both the fortepiano and the modern piano. Today, I will present three composers from the classic period: Johann Friedrich Dölles Jr., 1746 to 1796. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, 1756 to 1791. And Leopold Kozelek, 1747 to 1818. I have these books from I got this book from Boston Early Music Festival, and I found this, and I'm gonna play for you later. And this is Mozart, we all know. And Kozelek Sonata is edited by Christopher Haggood. So later, I'm gonna talk about it and play for you. Of course, I realized that the investment of owning a fortepiano is most often not possible. But with today's access to traditional period recording, it is possible for the piano teacher to hear period recording of classic period compositions and can gather ideas on sound and performance issues that can be moved over to the modern piano. The fortepiano sound is not as powerful as the modern piano. However, it does have its own unique sound quality. Let me briefly discuss the differences and similarities found in the fortepiano. Fortepiano is the earliest version of the modern piano and was developed by the Italian harpsichord maker Bartolomeo Cristofori, who was employed by the Medici family of Florence. Fortepiano keyboards were usually shorter than our standard 88-key pianos today. Most are only 5 or 6 octaves, and keys themselves on the early fortepiano, compared to our modern piano, were shorter, as well as slightly narrower, so that large intervals were easily reached. The fortepiano has thin leather-covered hammers. It has a much lighter case construction than the modern piano, and does not have a metal frame or metal bracing. On many fortepianos, the pedals are controlled by the pianist's knee, instead of pressure provided by the foot. These differences contribute to why the fortepiano does not sound as rich or powerful as today's modern pianos. However, there is a unique quality, delicate quality, produced by the knee-powered pedals, particularly the left pedal on the fortepiano. As a pianist who is quite familiar with the unique features of the fortepiano, in my opinion, it's much easier for me to articulate differences in sound and mood within a piece on the fortepiano due to its more gentle sound. Sometimes the modern piano's tone is too powerful to articulate the soft, gentle components of the composer's work. With the fortepiano, it is easier to express the ideas originally intended for the delicacy of a composition. I believe it is now time to let you hear what I have been talking about. First, I would like to play the first movement from a Dole Sonata number 6. Johann Friedrich Dole Jr. received his musical education from his father. Himself a musician of high rank in Leipzig as a successor of the great Johann Sebastian Bach. Dole was a child of his time and composed in the fashionable style, galant style. Fanciful, charming, witty, elegant, and a considerable challenge for the technical skills of the performer. I did recording as world premiere of this piece. Now, let me play the Doles again, our modern piano. What do you think?
Like, so is the Fortepiano 440?
The piano is lower, it's it was about 415.
Yeah, difference. Yes, I hope you heard a difference. I don't need to give any of additional information about Mozart and his importance. Now for a piece that is familiar to all of us, Mozart Sonata K333 in B flat major, second movement. My performance ideas were altered by the contrast between the two instruments. Recently, I had been offered the opportunity to record the complete 50 keyboard sonatas of Leopold Kozelek, and knew that they should be recorded on the fortepiano, which would be the instrument and sound that he had heard when he composed his sonatas. I finished recording all of Kozelek's sonatas, 50 sonatas for Berlin Classics in Holland. Kozelek, as the foremost representative of Czech music in 18th century Vienna. He was noted as a composer, pianist, and keyboard teacher, and ranked above Haydn and Mozart during his lifetime. According to Christopher Hagood, Kozelek's sonatas are, in the true sense, classics. That is to say, models for imitation and study, and display to perfection precisely those features that theorists require of a sonata at the end of the 18th century. I was approached by Berlin Classics to do the complete recordings of the 50 sonatas of Leopold Kozelek. I was very excited because they wanted the recordings to be on fortepiano. The final project consisted of 12 CDs. Let's hear a part of Kozelek Sonata number 23 in C major. You can hear there is a certain delicate quality that the fortepiano gives to this piece. After getting the chance to hear all of these three works performed on both a more modern instrument and one from the time period of these great composers, it is clear that there is a change in delicate tone, altering the original delicacy of the piece when played on a modern piano. By performing these pieces as they were originally intended on the fortepiano, it brings a more clear understanding of intention of the music and vision of the composer. When teaching these pieces to students, it is important that we emphasize the purpose of the pieces as seen by the composers of them. Therefore, there is a clear advantage to teaching music from this particular time period on a classical fortepiano over a modern piano. It has been my pleasure to present the fortepiano's value in teaching compositions of this early classic period to students. Thank you again for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your CAPMT. Any questions?
Yes, so can you explain the function of the 3D pedals?
Yes, I just mentioned about the knee pedals, but this instrument that Curtis brought today has no knee pedal here, but Curtis will explain more pedals.
What?
Fortepianos are not universal. Everyone was different from others. This is an English style piano, which was dramatically different than the Viennese style. There were basically the two types. And the Viennese style had the knee leathers. They do the same thing as pedal. They usually lift the dampers. But the English piano, because even the harpsichords that preceded the piano had foot pedals to change stops, or they were actually experimenting with volume of sound, and they would have shades they call Venetian swells that would open up when you stepped on a pedal to make it have a crescendo and decrescendo. So but the interesting thing about those pianos is they were significantly different.
Gotcha.
And so each one was its own case, and when you have those different composers, they all had different pianos, but the character, like what you were saying, was still more the same, that the pianos had more difference in the way the bass and the treble separated. They weren't so homogeneous. That all came later, but it affected the way you play the music, and basically it's like when you play modern piano, it's like a transcription for a different instrument than the composer was used to, so you have to have that in mind. And if you have a basic idea about these pianos, one of the biggest differences, they don't sustain as long. So the composers would have a huge chord that's supposed to die off, like Beethoven when he starts something. But you can't do that on a modern piano. You have to do something else to get the sound to die away, because he could have, like the Pathetique Sonata starts off with a huge chord and then very quiet notes.
Yes.
On this piano, you can do it exactly as Beethoven wrote it, but on the modern piano, you have to figure out, how do I get the sound to diminish? And that's those kind of differences that.
So
This piano is Broadwood.
Yeah, this is a Broadwood piano made in
It's Beethoven's
1813
period.
in London, and it's exactly like the piano that Beethoven had in his composing studio. But he had many pianos, and people were always bringing him pianos, and about every 3 years, even the pianos were changing, so they were always something new, something different. And they were giving them especially to a composer like Beethoven. And what's interesting to know, they've more recently discovered that Mozart, there's no evidence anywhere that Mozart's pianos, or the pianos he liked, had leather hammers, they actually were wooden hammered pianos. That's sort of a startling discovery, because they have Mozart's actual piano, but somebody changed after Mozart died, they changed the hammers to leather coverings. So the first Viennese pianos had wooden. So it's almost like a lot more like a harpsichord. And there is some recordings you can find, like on YouTube and things, and the pianos actually sound really beautiful, and the concertos, very crystalline, clear type of sound.
Good question.
Yes.
The strings. Is somebody manufacturing reproduction strings?
Yeah. So there was a guy in England actually who was restoring some pianos for a guy who had a wire factory. So he said, if you would manufacture the wire, you could restore your pianos. So there's a guy named Malcolm Rose, and I restrung this. I bought this at a Sotheby's auction, and it had no strings, and it hadn't been played for a long time. If you see the top, it's all got all these circles because it was used just to hold potted plants, and they watered everything. But I mean, wood holds up pretty well, and the entire piano was like the inside. Everything was just jet black from soot and everything. The coal burn. Yeah.
I want to ask, where are you from? Are you from Southern California?
Yeah, well, I basically grew up in San Diego,
Yes, he is here.
moved to Los Angeles
Around here.
after college.
Here is Claremont.
Yes,
Yes.
I am.
So I was wondering if you were also in this Claremont area.
Well, I'm in downtown LA, my shop, but I met Jenny when she was a student at Claremont, and I was taking care of the keyboard instruments there.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Look,